welcome to my kitchen. My name is Andrea, and today I'm going to show you how to make iron skillet brownies without an iron skillet. So I've cut this batch in half, so my iron skillet is just way too big for this. So you can make it just using a saucepan. So in our medium saucepan, we're going to add 1 stick of room temperature butter. And we're going to go ahead and turn the heat on to medium. And then 1 cup of sugar. And 3 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. And we're just going to get that butter melting in there. So this recipe came about many years ago. I was working in a restaurant and one of the ladies that I worked with brought in a recipe that she had got from an elderly lady at her church, and it was called iron skillet brownies. And I tried them and they were amazing. Not as cakey, more fudgy like for a brownie, which I prefer. I don't like a real cakey brownie. If I wanted cake, I would make cake. So I really liked this recipe. And then I added a different frosting to it. I don't think it even had a frosting with it. So I added a frosting with it just to take it over the top. So I will show that to you today as well. All right, so we're not really looking to cook this, so I'm just going to kind of turn this down to medium, low, kind of between medium and low. So the butter's melted, and then we're going to add 2 eggs. Let's mix these here first. Crack those open. One. If your mixture is too hot when you go to add your eggs, it will start cooking your eggs. So you don't want that, because you don't want chunks of cooked egg in your batter. Okay. So I'm just going to mix that in. And then we need a pinch of salt. So I'm just going to, just a little bit. It's going to be around 1/8 or a little less than 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Okay. Mix that in there. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. And then we're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And the whole premise behind it being iron skillet brownies and then the stovetop is you mix it up in the skillet and then you just pop it right into the oven. So it's a one-pot dish, so to speak. But for us today, it's going to be a two-pan dish. All right. And then the last ingredient is 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. So we're just going to put that there. Mix it in, splatter it out like I usually do. I'm a little bit of a messy cook, so, but that's okay. I'm the one that cleans it up, so no worries there. Okay, so it's just all mixed up. Just looks like any brownie batter. And then we're going to bake this in a 9 by 9 or an 8 by 8 square pan. I have lined this with 2 pieces of parchment paper. So I cut the parchment so it would fit across, and then I cut another strip and put it the other way. The reason I did that And so once I put the frosting on there and it's set up, I can just pull it completely out of the pan and cut it. And I'm not having to cut the brownies in the pan. I have a pan like this one that has dings in the bottom from where I took something somewhere and they used a knife to cut whatever it was and they ruined my pan. So anyway, try not to do that. So if you can turn it out, I find that brownies are not easy to turn out like a cake is. So just putting the parchment in there like that will save that. So I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. And this is going to bake for about 30 minutes. Now I always find that brownies, I like to just undercook them a little bit. So I will probably check them at 25. I don't want, when I do the toothpick, I don't want them to be, I don't want to see batter on the toothpick. That means that they need to cook longer. But if there are crumbs on that toothpick, then I'm pulling it. I don't like them overcooked. All right. So just gonna make sure this is even here in the pan. And then I'm gonna pop this in the oven. We'll check it at 25, and then if we need to go a little longer. Brownies are done. They're gonna sit here and cool for just a couple of minutes while we make the frosting. You don't want the brownies completely cold when you put the frosting on. It is a cooked frosting, so it's going to be perfectly fine. So I've got a small saucepan, and then in that pan I'm going to put a half a stick of butter. This butter is room temperature, so it'll melt much quicker. And then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of whole milk, and then 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder. And then we're going to put that under the fire on medium heat. And we're just going to heat that until it boils, and then we'll shut it off. So I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to add 1 3/4 cup of sifted powdered sugar. You're going to want to make sure you sift your powdered sugar, because when you add it to this, if it's not and there are clumps, it is going to clump in your frosting. So just go ahead and add that carefully, not to spill it all over the stove. Just move it over here, and we'll see if I need to add some more heat to it, but it should be okay. Just get it stirred up. Get it all mixed in there. Doesn't take much, so it's nice and kind of has a glossy sheen to it. So we're going to add a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And the vanilla actually just helps to enhance the chocolate flavor. So if you don't have vanilla and you're like, yeah, I'll make it anyway, you can, but you're going to be missing the vanilla. You won't taste it, but it definitely helps the chocolate. Okay, so that's mixed up, so we're going to bring our brownies over here. And they're still a little warm. Okay. And then we're just going to pour this on top of the brownies. Actually, we'll just use this offset spatula that we cut the butter with. Just to smooth that out. Just try to kind of get even so you don't have one brownie that's got a real thick bite of frosting and then another one that doesn't. So and I usually just try to kind of smooth it out. You don't have too much time to work with it because it is going to start setting up. Now, if you liked pecans or walnuts, you could sprinkle some on top of this. That would be perfectly fine. I don't like pecans or walnuts, so I'm going to go plain, but that's okay. All right, so I did test this to make sure it was going to pull out, and it will, but I'm going to leave it because I don't want my frosting to run off the sides. So we'll check back in about half an hour or so, and I'll cut into these. All right, y'all, these brownies are done. I let them set. I'm just gonna pull this out of here. See how easy that is? I just let them set out to kind of finish cooling and set up for about 30 minutes, and then I popped it in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes more, just so it would be nice and firmed up. It pulled out really nicely out of that pan, so this was great. So we're just going to cut these, and remember I said they're really rich, so we're just going to cut them into small pieces, almost bite-sized pieces. There we go. Just like cutting fudge. Go. And then we're just going to go about like that. There, that came out perfect. All right. So let's take a look at this. There we go. Put it on a plate. So you can see the frosting is not overly thick, but since it is so rich, it's thick enough. So let's put a couple more on this plate. I would suspect that most anyone that wants one is going to want more than one, and you're probably going to want a glass of milk to go with that. So, and there you have my iron skillet brownies, not made in an iron skillet, but if you have one, they're really good. That is just something about tops it off. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this, want to see more, let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and subscribe, share, like, all that goodness. Until next time.